So good evening, everyone, and welcome you all to this Sutta class. My name is Revata, but you can just call me Bante. So I'm Bante Revata. Okay, so first we are going to pay homage to the Buddha. So you can chant along with me. Sadhu, sadhu. සාදු නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි ဒ ුතියම්පි බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි ဒ ුතියම්පි ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි ဒ ුතියම්පි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි තතියම්පි බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි තතියම්පි ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි තතියම්පි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි සාදු සාදු සාදු. Okay, dear friends, before discussing today's sutta, let's try to relax our mind and our body. Let's practice a little bit of breathing meditation. Before that, let's try to bring our focus to the present moment and let's bring our focus to our body. Okay, now make yourself comfortable. And straighten your body. And keep your hands on a comfortable position. And slowly close your eyes. If it is difficult for you, then you can just half close your eyes, or you can gaze at the floor. Now bring your awareness to your face. And let the muscles in your face to relax. Pay attention to your shoulders. Relax your shoulders. Relax your arms. Relax your fingers. Relax your legs. Relax your whole body. Now be mindful of your thoughts. Observe your thoughts. Let thoughts come, let thoughts go. Some bad memories may come to your mind. May fearful thoughts may come to your mind. Or some pleasant thoughts may come to your mind. Just observe your thoughts and don't take any thought as me or mine. Just let them come and let them go. Now bring your focus again to your body. And be aware of this present moment. The present moment is what you are experiencing right now. We feel this moment is really happening. Think about the moment that you joined this meeting. At that moment, you felt that moment was real. It was really happening. But now, that moment is in your past. Even the moment you closed your eyes for this meditation is in your past. Try to understand. The past is over. It will never come again. And try to understand. The future hasn't come yet. And then try to understand. This present moment too shall pass. Think again. The past is over. The future hasn't come yet. This present moment is subject to change. There's nothing to be worried about. It's all about the calmness of your mind in this present moment. Feel the calmness of your mind. Now, bring your focus to your lips. Pay attention to the feelings in your lips. Now gently pay attention to between your upper lip and your nose. And notice the sensation of the air of your breath. Be mindful of your breath. When you are breathing in, be aware that I'm breathing in. When you are breathing out, be aware that I'm breathing out. Now, bring your focus to your body and slowly open your eyes. And take a moment to notice the calmness of your mind and your body. Keep your palms together. Pay attention to the feelings in your fingers and say sadhu with me. Sadhu, sadhu, Sa- Dear friends, now I'm going to pay homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. My homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And also may my homage to my teacher, Pinwat Lokuswamin Wahanse. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, dear friends, I think you remember last week we discussed about a wonderful sutta. We discussed about Meghiya Sutta, the 5 requirements to have a matured mind, or 5 things that we should practice to mature our mind. So, dear friends, I think you all know tomorrow is the full moon day. So full moon day starts tomorrow. Uh, so this full moon day is called Asala full moon day. So what is the significance of the Asala full moon day? On a Asala full moon day, a Buddha delivered his first Dhamma sermon, Dhammsak Pavatum Sutta, or Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, or setting the Dhamma wheel, setting up the Dhamma wheel in motion. And in that sutta, Buddha revealed to this world, first time he revealed about the 4 noble truths to this world, not only to human beings. So at that time, at that moment, 5 human beings, the first 5 disciples of the Buddha, were listening to the first Dhamma sermon. But deities and Brahmas from many uh, heavenly worlds and Brahma worlds listen to that Dhamma sermon. And from that day, our great teacher Supreme Buddha taught 4 noble truths to both human beings and heavenly beings in so many different ways. So Buddha try to explain about 4 noble truths in so many different ways. And also, we know in one of the suttas, Arahant Sariputta Thero said, you can put all the skillful qualities, skillful things in this world into 4 noble truths. He said, it's like that you can put the footprints of all the animals into one footprint. That is the footprint of the elephant. Likewise, you can put all the skillful things in this world into 4 noble truths. So Buddhism is all about 4 noble truths. So we know noble truth of suffering, noble truth of origin of suffering, noble truth of cessation of suffering, noble truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Since we couldn't realize the Four Noble Truths, we had to go through so much suffering throughout this samsaric journey, this death and birth cycle. Once we understand, once we realize the Four Noble Truths, that is the moment that we start to put a stop to this samsaric journey. So in one of the suttas, Buddha said, if someone realizes Four Noble Truths, then he can get rid of more than, so this is not the Buddha's word, like I am teaching that Buddha's teaching in modern words. Okay, so according to that sutta, it's like if someone realizes Four Noble Truths, then he can gets rid of more than 99% of sufferings. So it means if we realize the Four Noble Truths, if we can understand the Four Noble Truths, then we can get rid of a huge part of sufferings that we have to go through. So it also means we have to go through so much suffering in our lives. That's why we need to understand Four Noble Truths. So Buddha advises us to give the first priority to realize the Four Noble Truths. So then, as disciples of the Buddha, or as someone who tries to follow the teachings of the Buddha, you should understand our first priority in our lives is putting an effort to realize the Four Noble Truths. And also, we all want to have a happy life. We all want to get rid of all the mental pain. We all want to get rid of stress, anxiety. So that could be the reason that you practice Buddhism. So that could be the reason that that you start to practice meditation, learning suttas. So Buddhism helps us to get rid of all the defilements, negative thoughts in our mind. Then it helps us to have a joyful life, happy life. So we all want to have a happy mind, peaceful mind. To do that, to achieve it, we should try to understand the Four Noble Truths. So if we want to develop our wisdom to the highest level, if we want to get rid of all the sufferings in our life, and if we want to have a peaceful mind, if you want to have a happy mind, if you want to liberate from the stress, anxiety, depression, all of those mental issues, we should understand, we should realize the Four Noble Truths. So, dear friends, there are some habits in our life that keep us from realizing Four Noble Truths, that stop us from realizing Four Noble Truths. And also, we need to understand those things cause the sufferings, mental pains in our life. So if we should try to get rid of those things. So last week, we learned about 3 defilements that destroy our uh, peace in our mind. I think you can remember last week we learned about three defilements that arise in our mind: sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, and harmful thoughts. So today we are going to learn about a sutta that we can practice in our day-to-day life in order to uh, shape our life uh, in a way to realize the Four Noble Truths, and also this practice helps us to get rid of uh, those three defilements in our minds. So this sutta is called Vitakkasutta. This sutta is called Vitakkasutta. So it has translated into thoughts. Okay? Thoughts. So Vitakka means the thoughts. So this sutta is in Sangyutta Nikaya. It is in the connected discourses. And this sutta, so if we start to practice this sutta every day, we will be able to experience so much peace, happiness, a mental clarity, and gradually it will lead us to realize the Four Noble Truths. Okay, so let's discuss this sutta briefly. So in this sutta, Buddha, Buddha addressed monks, and Buddha said, "Don't think bad, unskillful thoughts." So directly Buddha said, okay, don't think bad, unskillful thoughts, such as sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, and harmful thoughts. So Buddha advised, so Buddha delivered this sutta to the monks. So Buddha advised that those monks don't think bad, unskillful thoughts. Don't think sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, and harmful thoughts. Then Buddha said, why is that? Why am I saying that you should not think those bad, unskillful thoughts? Buddha said, those thoughts are not beneficial. Those thoughts are not beneficial. And those thoughts uh, are not a lead to the spiritual life. So now we all want to have a spiritual life. Okay? So that's why we learn teachings of the Buddha. That's why, regardless of regardless whether you are a monk or a layperson, we all want to have a spiritual life. That's why we learn teachings of the Buddha. That's why practice meditation. So, but still, we think about those thoughts. We think sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, harmful thoughts. So now we can look back how we spent this day, and we should reflect on how we spend this day from morning to this moment. Then we can understand throughout the day we thought about so many sensual thoughts. We had some angry thoughts, harmful thoughts. So we should understand those thoughts are not beneficial. So actually, not only today, throughout our life. So we have wasted so much time in our life for those thoughts sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, and harmful thoughts. N- Not only in this life, throughout this sansaric journey, this death and birth cycle, we have spent most of our time thinking those harmful thoughts. That's why we couldn't realize the Four Noble Truths. Like here, Buddha says, those thoughts don't lead you to the spiritual life. And Buddha says, don't they such thoughts uh, don't lead to the dispassion, cessation, peace, wisdom, awakening, and liberation. So all of those things are uh, states of our mind that we want to attain. So we want to uh, detach from all the sensual pleasures. We want to uh, have the inner peace. We want to develop our wisdom. We want to attain the enlightenment, and we want to liberate from all the sufferings. But the thoughts that have in our mind, or the thoughts that we think most of the time in our life, don't lead us to those special things. So that's why still there is some mental pain in our mind. That's why still we haven't unable to find the inner peace. So even though we have a desire to have all of those things, still we spend so much time our life thinking those thoughts. Like that happened to Venerable Megir. So even though he had a strong desire to attain the full enlightenment, find the inner peace, when he started to meditate, those thoughts arose in his mind. He couldn't he couldn't get rid of those thoughts. So this is the first thing. Okay, so Buddha says, don't think about those thoughts. Why? Those thoughts are not beneficial. Those thoughts don't lead to the spiritual life. Those thoughts don't lead us to realize the Four Noble Truths, to find the inner peace, to the enlightenment, to the liberation. So now our goal is attaining the liberation. Our goal is realize the Four Noble Truths. Our goal is find the inner peace. That is our goal. That's what we want to achieve. But there are three enemies in our mind that don't help us to achieve what we want to achieve. Instead, they are obstacles of our way toward inner peace, toward the realization of the Four Noble Truths, uh, toward the full enlightenment. So that's why Buddha says, so Buddha show us, and Buddha uh, teaches us, okay, there are three defilements, and those three defilements are harmful for you. So because of that, you need to get rid of those thoughts. So then, so last week we talked about what the sensual thoughts are. So thoughts, so briefly say, the thoughts that are connected with sensual pleasures. So we know in this world there are uh, forms, sounds, uh, odors, taste, and physical sensations that are very desirable. appealing and arousing our desire. So when we encounter those things, then we focus on the pleasant features of those things. For example, if we when we see something very beautiful, okay, then what happens? Like we focus on the pleasant features of that beautiful form. Then those marks of that form stay in our mind. Then what happens? We think about those marks unwisely. Okay, for example, if you uh, see a gorgeous actress, then what happens? You focus on the pleasant features uh, of the body of that actress, maybe hair or skin tone or lips. Then focus on that pleasant features. Then the marks of those features stay in your mind. So your mind saves those data, not the whole data, okay? Not the whole, maybe not the whole uh, picture of that body. Maybe a few things. Oh, hair. Her hair is nice, wonderful. Her skin tone is nice. Okay? So then it stays, that data stay in our mind. Then what happens? Our mind thinks about those features with passion. Then our mind attached to it. Our mind attached to it. So then, so at that moment, sensual thoughts arise in our mind. Sensual thoughts arise in our mind. So, and sometimes we encounter some unpleasant things. Maybe someone that we don't like. Or sometimes we hear some sounds that we don't like, that we hate to hear. Then what happens? Again, our mind works in the similar way. Our mind focuses on the features, that unpleasant features. And then those marks stay in our mind. For example, if someone insult us, so we at that moment we hear some sound, but that sound is unpleasant. Then at that moment we are repelled by that unpleasant sound. Then the marks of that sound stay in our mind. So that then we think, oh, he insulted me. He said some bad words to me. Then anger rises in our mind. Or maybe harmful thoughts. Based on that, maybe harmful thoughts arise. Okay, I should say something back. I should revenge. I should hit him. I should kill him. So some harmful thoughts arise in our mind. So those thoughts, so all the time, okay, when we walk and when we try to meditate, when we try to listen to a Dhamma talk, okay, maybe even this moment, even right now, such thoughts arise in our mind. So it always happens. So always, okay, almost all the time, either sensual thoughts or angry thoughts or harmful thoughts arise in our mind. So Buddha says you should not think such thoughts. Why? Those thoughts are not beneficial. So when we, so the first thing we should do, we should accept what Buddha says. So, uh, and also if we try to understand it in our life, then very easily we can accept and we can understand it. So then we can analyze ourselves. Okay? We can think, okay, when I was having uh, when I was having some angry thoughts, it was very painful. It uh, it wasn't beneficial. At that time, I couldn't concentrate. Okay? So then so we learn this teaching, then we should apply it to ourselves, then we should verify it within us. So that's why Buddhism is all about investigation. So we learn the teachings of the Buddha and then we try to see it within us. We should verify it whether it is true or false. Then we can understand, yes, of course, sensual thoughts are not beneficial. Harmful thoughts are not beneficial. Angry thoughts are not beneficial. Whenever I have such thoughts, there is no peace in my mind. Always those thoughts bring pain to me. So you might be wondering how sensual thoughts are painful. So it's very simple. So suppose if you want to focus on something, okay, maybe something that you have to do at your office. So in those moments, if sensual thoughts arise in your mind, can you focus on what you have to do? No, you can't. And also, even if we have sensual thoughts, and if we try to have if we try to enjoy the sensual thoughts, but at that moment, it doesn't bring peace to us at that moment. It is a little bit, there is a slight pain with those sensual thoughts. And also at that moment, uh, we we cannot use the power of our mind. At that moment, our mind is very narrow. We just focus on the appealing side of the sensual pleasures. So at that moment, our mind is very narrow. So, and also especially when if you try to meditate, and then you cannot meditate because there are sensual thoughts. So, but if we can get rid of it, then we can experience the peace in our mind. And especially uh, if especially since we try to realize the Four Noble Truths. So especially we try to find our inner peace, especially we try to attain the enlightenment, then we should understand, okay, those thoughts are not beneficial for me. Those thoughts don't help me to achieve what I want to achieve. So that is the first thing. So first we understand about the bad impact of those evil, negative thoughts. Then what should we do? Okay, now we are not allowed to think about those thoughts. Then what should I think? So then Buddha recommends us to think some wholesome thoughts. Buddha says, when you think, you should think this is suffering. You should think this is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. So Buddha recommends us to think about the Four Noble Truths. So, so it goes with our goal. So our goal is realizing Four Noble Truths. Our goal is uh, attain the full enlightenment. So here Buddha says, okay, you should think this is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering, and this is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Why is that? Buddha says, because those thoughts are beneficial and those thoughts relevant to the fundamentals of spiritual life. So those thoughts leads us to a spiritual life, and those thoughts leads us to the dispassion, cessation, insight, awakening, and liberation. So thinking about the Four Noble Truths helps us to find inner peace. It helps us to uh, realize the Four Noble Truths. It helps us to develop our wisdom. And finally, it helps us to liberate from all the sufferings and attain the Nibbana. So that's why Buddha recommends us to think about the Four Noble Truths. So here Buddha teaches us there are things, there are thoughts that you should not think. There are thoughts that you should think. So when we learn this sutta, then it helps us to develop our right view, okay? Right view. So it helps us because we know that right view, understanding the unwholesome things and understanding of wholesome things is a part of the right view. And also understanding of the Four Noble Truths is a part of the right view. So here in this sutta, Buddha teaches us, okay, there those things are like sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, and harmful thoughts are unwholesome, unskillful. In other side, Buddha says, thoughts of Four Noble Truths are skillful. So then, if we understand it, then it helps us to develop our wisdom very quickly. Why? We get to know about unwholesome things and wholesome things. Then it make our job easy. Why? To have a healthy mind, to have a peaceful mind, we need to get rid of unwholesome things. We need to develop wholesome things. In this sutta, directly Buddha says, there are thoughts you should not think. Those are unwholesome. Those are not beneficial. There are thoughts you should think. Those are wholesome. So now we know, okay, what we should not think, what we should think. So then so first we learn about this sutta, then we should learn it again and again, and we should develop our knowledge about this sutta. Then how could we practice this sutta in our day-to-day life? So, one way we can do, so first we should learn this sutta. We should uh, accept this sutta after uh, reflecting wisely on this sutta, or after applying this sutta to ourselves and trying to uh, see the truth of this sutta. And then we understand, okay, I should get rid of those uh, harmful thoughts, and I should think about wholesome thoughts, the Four Noble Truths. Then every day we can give a suggestion to our mind about those harmful thoughts. We can give a suggestion to our mind. Sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, and harmful thoughts are not beneficial to me. Such thoughts don't lead me to the purification of my mind, or those thoughts don't bring me inner peace. Such thoughts don't help me to realize the Four Noble Truths. Those thoughts are not good for me, not good for others. Those thoughts uh, bring pain, suffering to my life. So we try to think about the bad impact of those thoughts. So we give, it's like a kind of suggestion to our mind. So then when we think about the bad impact of those thoughts, actually we practice wise consideration or yoniso manasikara. Then it helps us to develop our mindfulness about those thoughts. Then such thoughts arise in our mind, we will be able to recognize, identify those thoughts very easily. Now, one problem we have now, the difficulty of identify those thoughts, right? Because those thoughts are like kind of a part of our mind. So now it's not easy to identify those thoughts, recognize those thoughts. So that's why our mind is overcome by those thoughts. But now we give a suggestion to our mind about those thoughts. Uh, so we give all the data, data about those negative thoughts to our mind. Then it helps us to be mindful of those thoughts. Then very easily we will be able to identify those thoughts when such thoughts arise in our mind. Okay? So it's like a vaccine. Okay? So in a vaccine, we give a neutralized virus, okay, to our body. So likewise, we think about those, we focus on those negative thoughts, okay, but we neutralize it and we give all the data about those thoughts to our mind. Then next time such thoughts arise in our mind, we will be able to identify those thoughts. It is one thing we should do. And then what should we do when such thoughts arise in our mind? Okay, now we are mindful about those thoughts. We identify those thoughts. Then if such thoughts arise in our mind, what should we do? So I think you might have learned about the Vitakkasutta Sutta. In that sutta, Buddha teaches us about several strategies that we can apply to get rid of such thoughts. So, however, we need to understand sometimes as soon as we are mindful of those thoughts, as soon as we recognize uh, negative thoughts, those thoughts fade away from our mind. It's like uh, uh, sometimes, sometimes some intruders try to uh, enter into our house, or maybe especially it happens in our Zoom sessions, like. But however, sometimes when we recognize someone as an enemy, so they just go away. So that's why. So when sometimes as soon as we recognize those negative thoughts as negative thoughts, those thoughts fade away from our mind. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Why? Sometimes it's very strong, or sometimes uh, we are late to recognize, identify those thoughts. Then at that moment, they have become a little bit stronger. Then what should we do? Okay. in those moments, we, as Buddha said, we can focus on some wholesome thoughts. We can focus on some wholesome thoughts. So in this sutta, Buddha teaches us about some wholesome thoughts. Buddha advises us to think about the Four Noble Truths. So in such a moment, we can think about Four Noble Truths. So it is a kind of, so then we bring our focus to wholesome thoughts. And also we need to understand, uh, and even if we don't have negative thoughts, defilements in our mind, we should practice to think about the Four Noble Truths. So while we have a kind of free time, when you have your leisure time, you can focus on Four Noble Truths. So you can think about the noble truth of suffering. You can think about noble truth of origin of suffering, noble truth of cessation of suffering, and noble truth leading to the noble truth of path, the leading to the cessation of suffering. So you can think uh, aging, uh, birth is suffering, aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering, associating with things and people that I don't like is a suffering. Be separated from loved ones and things that I like is a suffering. Uh, and not having what I want is a suffering. And briefly says, according as Buddha says, briefly says, 5 aggregates of clinging is suffering. So we try to focus on uh, the sufferings that arise in our life. And then we can think about, oh, here, this is the noble truth of origin of suffering. It is the craving which produces the re-existence, accompanied by passionate lust and finding delight now and here and now there, namely craving for sense pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. So we think about, okay, craving or desire that I have toward the existence, non-exist, toward the sensual pleasures, toward the existence, toward the non-existent is the origin of suffering. And also, when we think about those things, we can think some other suttas that support us to understand about these noble truths. So then it helps us to expand our knowledge about the Four Noble Truths. Then Buddha says the third noble truth, the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. It is the complete cessation of that very craving, giving it up, liberating oneself from it, and detaching oneself from it. So the complete when we completely abandon craving or desire, so that is the cessation, that then we can attain the cessation of suffering and the path leading to the cessation of suffering. So we think about the noble eightfold path. So when we have some free time, okay, we can focus on the Four Noble Truths. Then, and also it helps us to develop our mindfulness, awareness, our wisdom. And especially when there are thoughts, when there are some harmful thoughts in our mind, like sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, or other harmful thoughts in our mind, then very easily we can focus on the Four Noble Truths. Then when we think about the Four Noble Truths, such thoughts will fade away from our minds. Another thing we can do, like we don't pay any attention to those negative thoughts. It's like when someone that we don't like in front of us, we don't look at them. We just close our eyes, or we can uh, stare at something else. Likewise, we don't pay any attention to those thoughts, then those thoughts fade away from our mind. Another thing we can do, like ob observing how such thoughts form in our mind. So so there are some ways that you can practice. One very effective way is going backward, how trying to understand how such thought formed in our mind. So, for example, suppose suddenly there are some angry thoughts in your mind. Okay? Yeah, and you think about someone very angrily. So then you can go backward. Why I started to think about that person? Then you can understand. Oh, before I was thinking about that person, I was thinking about something else. Then you can go backward. Why I started to think about that particular thing? Oh, because I heard something, or I saw something. So that it led me to think about that particular thing. Then it led me to think about that person that I don't like. Then anger arose in my mind. So then when we go backward, then what happens? Those thoughts fade away from our mind. Just those thoughts just disappear from our mind. So that is something that we all can practice. So it is sometimes we feel like there is no way that I can go out from these thoughts. So very sometimes those thoughts are very, very powerful. In those moments, we can apply that technique. Then we go backward and we try to understand how those thoughts formed in my mind. Because sometimes if we try to analyze that stream of thoughts in our mind, there is no any connection from the beginning of the stream and the end of the stream. Maybe we have started to think about something pleasant thing. Finally, it has ended up in some totally unpleasant thing. So that's how our mind works. So sometimes we find we are crying, okay? Or we uh, uh, criticize someone in our mind. But if we go backward, it has started with something totally uh, different from the last thoughts. So sometimes there is no any connection between the beginning and the end of that stream of thoughts. So when we try to understand it, then those thoughts disappear from our mind. So we can apply such techniques to get rid of those thoughts in our mind. So, and also uh, at the same time, uh, we try to reflect on Four Noble Truths. So we learn this teaching again and again, and we strengthen our confidence of this teaching and confidence of the Buddha. And then we try to think about the Four Noble Truths, and we try to understand the Four Noble Truths within us. And also we give a suggestion to our mind about the bad impact of negative thoughts, uh, according to this sutta, uh, sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, and harmful thoughts. In that way, we try to develop our awareness, mindfulness about those thoughts. Then, when such thoughts arise in our mind, we apply some strategy to get rid of those thoughts. So then, uh, gradually, we will be able to uh, get rid of those thoughts completely from our mind. And then our mind is very bright. Uh, and also, we think about the Four Noble Truths. So when our mind is very bright, like the sky with no clouds, our mind will absorb the Four Noble Truths. Then we will be able to realize the Four Noble Truths as it is. Okay, so that is the teaching for today. So this is a wonderful sutta, and we all of us can start to practice uh, the teachings in this sutta. Then it will help us to have a peaceful mind. It will help us to get rid of mind wandering, and it will help us to understand the Four Noble Truths. Another advantage of reflecting on Four Noble Truths is whenever we have some suffering, some pain in our mind, we will be able to look at that suffering through the Four Noble Truths. For example, if there is any mental pain in our mind because of some reason, at that moment we can think, oh, now there is a mental pain, or this is, so now I'm associating with a mental state that I don't like. And then we try to understand what is the cause of this suffering, or this is what Buddha said as the suffering, and what is the cause, or it is the craving or the desire, and what is the cessation of this suffering, the complete eradication of the desire or the uh, craving, and what is the path that I should practice, the Noble Eightfold Path. So when we try to reflect on that suffering according to the Four Noble Truths, then at that moment we develop our wisdom. We develop our right view. Okay? Then we try to practice right intention. So then actually, then we try to practice Noble Eightfold Path at that particular moment. And again, if someone if we have the pain of separation, we can also apply the Four Noble Truths. We can think, oh, now there is a pain in my life. So this is what Buddha said. Separation from loved one is a suffering. So this is what I'm going through now. So this is what Buddha said in the First Noble Truth. Then we try to understand what is the cause of this suffering, or desire, or attachment. So I had attachment. I have attachment to that person. So that's why I have this suffering. So what is the cessation? How can I put an end to this suffering? Okay, by removing that attachment, or by removing that desire or craving. Then what should I practice? The Noble Eightfold Path. Okay? So actually, when we try to understand the Four Noble Truths, at that moment, we practice Noble Eightfold Path. Then it helps us to have a huge relief at that particular moment. So that's why we should learn this sutta again and again, and we should try to think about Four Noble Truths. We should not think about the evil thoughts, sensual thoughts, angry thoughts, and harmful thoughts. And also we should try to learn the strategies that we can apply to get rid of those thoughts when those thoughts arise in our mind. And also we should try to understand the Four Noble Truths in our life.